Okay, welcome to Maths Live this morning. Okay, so this morning it's a short presentation. As I said yesterday, that today's going to be a short one, and then we'll be back on to some major topics on Monday. So a lot of people have been asking me about long multiplication. Today it's going to be a short one on long multiplication, just going through the methods, the pros and cons. So without further ado, today's choice of song. Remember, we've got to be brief on this due to the copyrights. Have a listen to this. Okay, that was an old one from the 60s, and that's Bob Dylan with "The Times Are a Changing," and that's reflects what today's topic is about: long multiplication, times tables, all that kind of stuff. So before we start, a couple of things to take note of. Okay, so first of all, the main skill involved in this process is knowing your times tables. I can't emphasize enough the importance of knowing your times tables, learning them, practicing them, and so on and so on. And I often compare this to a professional footballer who basically may have to take penalties during games. So you could get a decent penalty taker, and then you could just say, all right, he can take penalties, he doesn't need to practice. Or you could take another penalty taker who's decent enough, and practices every single day. Even though he can take penalties, he practices every single day. And so my money would be on the second choice of penalty taker, because they've practiced and practiced and kept up their skill. And that's what we need to do with times tables. You might think you're good at times tables, and that's all very well, but you still need to practice them. And in fact, I practice times tables. It's part of my job. I can't let myself down on times tables, so I practice them in my own time. So that's the most important skill involved in this process. Okay, let's move on. So people ask me which is the best method, and over the years of teaching, I've used all three. So there's three decent methods that I choose. There's more than that out there in maths world, but the three that I choose are the grid method, Napier's bones, and also the traditional method. So which is best? Now, up until a few years ago, I was Napier's bones all the way. Before Napier's bones, I was traditional method all the way, thinking, what's the point of learning other ones? Everyone should learn this way. And just recently, I've noticed the benefits of the grid method. And there's a lot of benefits to the grid method, especially as that's the main one that's been taught in primary school. But you know what? My advice here is, if you're decent at maths, learn all three. Learn all three how to do them. And then when you've learnt all three, choose the one that suits you the best. Okay, so we'll start off with the grid method. Now I've put down a calculation here: 34 times 56. Okay, so with the grid method, it is break down each number into its values of place values. So 34 is a 30 and a 4. 56 is a 50 and a 6. Okay, and we make a little bit of a grid. Okay, so the only criticism I've got of this method is that pupils, kids, adults, whoever's doing it, gets mixed up with the zeros. So you've got to be really, really careful on these zeros and try and understand why we have the zeros. Okay? And I want to refrain from using the term add zeros, because in some ways that's not that helpful. But actually that's the method we're doing. But let's go through it. Okay, so we're going to do this multiplication grid. So first of all, 50 times 30. Okay, so what we can do is just do the skill of 5 times 3 and write that down. 5 threes are 15. As I said to you at the start, you've got to know your times tables. But actually we're multiplying by tens here. 50 is tens. So therefore we need a place value of 10 times more because we're 50. So we need another 0. And here we're 30, so that's 10 times more again, so we need another 0. Because when we times by 10, the number moves left, and sometimes we put zeros to represent the place value. Refraining from the idea of adding a 0 on, adding 2 zeros on, although that's what it might look like is going on, what's actually happening is if we go back to basics, thousands, hundreds, tens, units, the number 15 gets multiplied by 10 and slides over one place for the 50 and one place for the 30, leaving us with 1500. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. 5 fours are 20, and then it's a factor of 10 for the 50, so we need another 0. Okay, 6 threes are 18. Then we need another factor of 10 for that 0. Okay, so I haven't done that very well. Try and keep them in line. Units, tens. If we put the 1 there, that's hundreds. I'll explain why later. 6 fours are 24. No factors of 10, no zeros to consider there. Right, brilliant. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add across. We don't normally add in maths going across, but actually what you'll find is the numbers are all quite nice and easy to work out. So units is 0 still. Tens is 0 still. 200 add 500 is 700. 1000. So you always find that calculation is pretty easy, and it's pretty easy given because of the place value of all the numbers. Same applies going across here, even though you think, oh, adding up across not the best, but actually it's straightforward. Units for, keep these in line here. 2 8 is 10, put the 0 down, carry the 1. 1 add 2 is 3. Okay, so keeping them in line is very important. Keep these digits in line. We're going to add them up. So units is 4, 0, 10. Carry the 1 again. Oh, people like to cross them out, don't they, these days? 3 add 7 is 10. 1 add 1 is 2. So 30 times 56. Let's just have a little check of that. 34 times 56. Is 1904. Okay, so there's been an error somewhere along the line there. Okay, so that's not supposed to happen. Let's just have a little look to see where the error is. So the 4's okay. Okay. Oh, I've seen it. Yes, it's 204, isn't it? There, that's it. 204, leaving that at 9. Sorry about that, maths people. And that's going to be a 1 there because we don't carry 1. 1904. So anyway, I'd always check this, and actually that wasn't on purpose, but this would show up when I'm doing my check anyway. So I'm going to check now. I'm going to check going down, adding up going down this time. So 0 add 0 is 0. 0 add 8 is 8. 5 add 1 is 6. And 1. So this is a really good check as well now. So I'm adding up going downwards. Okay, 0, 8, 6, 1. And then going down here, we've got a 4, we've got a 2, we've got a 2. And then to check, I can add them up going across. 0 add 4 is 4. 8 add 2 is 10. Put the 0 down, carry the 1. Okay, 4, 10, carry the 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the 1, so that's 1904. So the good thing about this one, even though I made that little error on on that 204 adding up across, okay, it would all flag up anyway because I would have added them up going down and checking across, and that's the beauty of that method. So it's quite a big method, it's quite cumbersome, and actually there's a couple of things to think about here. Pros are it's very understandable, it links with grid method, it links with algebra. The cons of this are that it is quite long-winded. You can see the amount of working out there. We've got to add up across. We've got zeros to think about. Okay, so there's some good points, some bad points. Another really good point is that we've got this adding up across and adding up down, which would have flagged my error up anyway, which is really useful to consider. Okay, so lots of good points about that one. And also it's my preferred choice now, and certainly for year 7s that's the way I'd go, okay, because it ties in with so many other things. Right, okay, let's move on to the next method. So we're going to go now to it's kind of like a variation of that, and it's called Napier's bones, because originally people would use this method in sand and use sand and soil and use bones to make the grid up. So we set this up in a similar way to the grid, but really folks, it's very closely linked to that. But when you're learning it in your skill acquisition stage, okay, I'm going to use a different piece of paper by the way. When you're learning your skill acquisition, starting to learn a skill, it's good to actually learn this method separately from the grid method. So let's go for this 34 times 56 Napier's bone style. Okay, so this time we set the grid up. We don't need any zeros involved. And this 56, okay, with the grid method, we put the 56 on the left. With this Napier's bones method, we put it on the right of the grid. Okay, and the reason we do that is because we need some working out space. Oh, I'm going to go for a ruler this time. So I want these grids nice and neat. So I'm going to set my grid up. Okay, it's just a normal multiplication grid. We're so used to doing these in school. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put diagonals in these little boxes like so. There we go. Alright, so the idea of this diagonal business, and let me show you one single cell, is that the top of the diagonal is the tens part of the sum, and the bottom of the diagonal is the units part of the sum. So let's just take this one cell as an example. 5 sixes, okay? So 5 sixes are 30, that's my answer. So the tens part is going to go on the top of the diagonal, and the units part is going to go on the bottom of the diagonal. And the idea here is that the system automatically sorts out the place values with these diagonals. Okay, so let's whiz through this. Normal grid, dead easy. 5 4s are 20. I say dead easy if you know your times tables, that is. 5 3s are 15. 6 4s are 24. And 6 3s are 18. So there's the grid done, and you can see already, working out wise, a lot less hassle than that. Okay, but this is the difficult part, and children, pupils, adults find this so difficult, this concept. We're so used to adding up in columns that when we switch to this idea, people really struggle with it. But I want you to imagine, folks, that we're not adding up in columns anymore. We're going to add up in diagonals, and we're going to go that way. Okay, and what it is that the Napier's bone system has already sorted out which bits are units. So all of these are units, all of these are tens, all of these are hundreds, and that's your thousands. Okay, alright, so let's add these up in diagonals. 4, 8, 9, 10. and this is another little trick, you can do this in two ways. We need to put the naught down, carry the 1 over here. But what I like to do is put the 1 in the hundreds column, or hundreds diagonal. So I'll just whack it in there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the 1 comes down. Some people like to put the 1 there next to the column, but I kind of like doing it just underneath 1. Alright, they follow the answers round like that. Okay, 1904. But I like to put them at the bottom. That's up to you. Okay, but that's a little idea as well. The total of that is 1. The total of that is going to be 9. The total, and so on. But that's my answer, 1904. Okay. Now, what I would say is, again, I'm talking about learning all three methods. So, what I would say is that if you can, this Napier's bones is going to save you some time, no doubt about it. But there are pros and cons. Pros is it's very quick and well, I'd say I think it's easy, but it's quick to do. Okay. The cons bit of it is that people don't like adding up in columns like that. It's really confusing for some people. But once you've practiced a few, believe me, it becomes very, very easy. So just going back to the first two, this is going to be our preferred maths method for our department. Okay, this grid method, it matches up with primary school, it matches up with algebra, all the other stuff. But if you've cracked that, I would say crack that first. Okay, grid method. Once you've cracked that, have a go at Napier's bones, save you heaps of time. It's really good system. Okay, so on to the next one. So this is the more traditional way. These days, I used to say a lot, all parents would be using this method, but these days I'm not so sure, because parents are getting used to now coming through with knowing how to do Napier's bones and long multiplication. So it's you probably find that this method isn't used as much as normal. Okay, so this is the traditional method. This is how we would be taught this in the 70s and 80s. Okay, and actually it's a good method to follow. Alright, there are pros and cons with this as well. Sometimes I still use this, but I've tried to drop it a little bit now. 6 fours are 24. Right, it's all to do with place value, this is, and you've got to be aware all the time of where the place values are. So we're going to start by basically multiplication is every digit multiplied with every other digit. So to do a system, we start with that 6. And what we're going to do is to do 6 times 4, 6 times 3. Okay, so, and that goes on the top row. 6 fours are 24. I'm going to put the 4 down, and I'm going to carry the 2 over, but I'm not going to use it yet. I'm going to write it in fully because I need to do this bit is here. So 6 threes are 18, but they're not 18, they're 180, because it's 30 times 6, 180. So we've got 180, but we've also got the 2 from the previous calculation, so it's 18, 180, 19, 20. So I'm going to put 20 there, which is basically 200. So that bad boy there is done. He goes out of the equation because he's gone with 4 and he's gone with 3. Alright, so he doesn't need to multiply. He doesn't multiply with 5, but he's gone. He's done. He's out of there. So we'll now move on to the next number on the bottom, which is 5. Now, first of all, we've got to realise that that is not 5, it's 50. So because of that, we're starting in the tens column straight away. So we go 5 fours, multiply everything with everything else. 5 fours are 20. Again, put the naught down, which is 200 actually, not 20. 200, so put the naught down, put the 2 there for 200, 200. We're not putting it in the full bit because we've got to do this 5 threes bit first. So 5 threes are 15 with the 2, 150, 160, 170. So that's 17, 170, well 1,700 actually. Okay, and then we do an addition sum. I'm keeping, notice how I kept them all nice in columns. Okay, so look at all the units are all together, all the tens are together, all the hundreds, all the thousands, all nicely together. So we're adding them up now. So you looking at this column, 4 and 0 is 4. All right, that's gone. Cross that 2 out. That's going to be a 0. 2 and 7 is 9. And 1 there is 1904. Okay, so calculator again. 34 times 56. 1904. Well, I did it here as well. So pros and cons of doing this method. So one of the pros here is going to be I just noticed Lydia's correction to my answer just then from the first bit. Thanks, Lydia, for that. So one of the pros of this is that it matches up with it in a traditional way. If you know what you're doing, it's quite nice to see how the place values fit in, but that's also a con as well, because a difficulty, because that is also very confusing when we're talking about 6 threes are 18 but they're not 18, they're 108, things like that. It is confusing. Okay, so would I advise you to learn this one? Definitely, but I would say go in this order. Okay, crack that one first. Okay, get that one sorted. That's your time one. That'll save you loads of time, especially GCSE non-calculator. And get that done. Understand that just for a bit of a challenge. Okay, so that leaves me with which method would I advise you to use? Okay, so in an ideal world, I would suggest learning all three and then choosing the best one. Now, I'll tell you that, I know these three very, very well. Okay, and well, you'd expect that, wouldn't you, as a maths teacher? But what I would say is that very often, if I'm doing a mark scheme, I haven't got a calculator, I use all three. It's funny, really. Sometimes some numbers are a better match to a particular style. There's other little tricks you can use as well. If you've got two numbers with one number, you can do some speed multiplication. So it depends on the number. So I use all three, but my preferred preference is definitely Napier's bones. Okay, that is the one that I would use the most. Having said that, this grid method is really good, and as demonstrated with my little arrow going across there, okay, that you've got this back up here, okay, to add them up going down and add them going across to give a check. So you've got 2 goes at your additions, whereas the others are 1 go at the additions. So as I noticed a little error earlier on, okay, it will flag that up. Okay, so, and also this one is the learnt one from primary school, so we will teach that in year 7 and 8 in that format. Okay, so learn that first. That's my tip. Learn that first, get this right, and then once you're happy with that, switch to Napier's bones, because you won't forget how to do the grid method, but Napier's bones will save you the time in the exams. Okay, and then use the traditional way as a challenge, and then you might understand your mums and dads if they're doing any calculations. So there's our nearly 25 minutes. It was going to be a short one today, but I'm fine with that. I enjoy Maths Live. So pass the word on with the chosen topic for next week. We'll be starting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Be aware, it'll be every day at 10 o'clock, but be aware that next week there will be a new rota for teachers going into school. So I will be going into school probably one day next week, but I'm free Monday, Tuesday. So Monday, Tuesday will be a new topic for those times, and I'll post that up during the weekend, or if I'm a little bit late, please come on board Monday morning, and I will be posting up at 9 o'clock, 8:30, what that topic is. Okay. In the meantime, if you're not watching this live, I'm getting lots and lots of viewers. 60 people. 60 people went for have viewed my videos so far. 64, I think, the last one. But I'd like to get people watching them live, and then you can post some questions to me and some comments as we're going along. I am reading the comments on the watch videos later on, but pass word around. If you're listening non-live, please join me on the live events 10 o'clock every day. You can still do your Joe Wicks and then join me. Okay, I would say this is as good as Joe Wicks, but people may differ. Anyway, good to see everyone. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. Be safe, and I'll catch you all on Monday morning for the next Maths Live topic. Leaving you with Bob Dylan. The times are definitely a changing. Here we go.